There's a lot of different ways that you can work on improving your photography and at least feeling better about the photos that you're taking. And the example that I want to give today is just simply reviewing your images over the past year, or in today's case, the past 14 years. So what I've done is I've pulled about 3 or 4 images from 2009 when I was really getting my start in photo, and then I have some more recent images from 2020 up through about 2022. But let's go ahead and take a look. So my first image here, again, this was shot in 2009, and this was a waterfall shot I got. At the time, I loved this image. I loved so many more, but realistically, there's not a lot of good things to say about this image. I feel like these rocks are way too close. Overall, the image makes me feel very claustrophobic, and I don't think it really shows the true size of just how big this waterfall actually is. But if a person were standing here, they would be about this big. So to give you an idea, this is a pretty decent sized waterfall, but in this image, it looks kind of small and compressed because of the way that I shot it. Now, if I did have to give myself some attaboys for this photo, it's that my highlights are really not that bad. They're not blown out. You could actually see some blue sky up here. It's not actually white. But because of that, this area I feel like is too dark, and I was definitely shooting JPEG during this time. So there's probably not a lot I could do to salvage this. Now, moving on to this image here of the flower, this isn't the best image either. However, it is kind of interesting in a sense that I did get to capture some ants in this flower, and that's the whole reason that I took this photo, is just because the ants were there. It wasn't that I cared about the flower. It was a part of some project. I was just like, oh, cool, ants. And I have this really crazy zoom on my point and shoot camera. Let's see how well we could take a photo of them. This image here at one time was my favorite image on the planet. This was the centerpiece to my fine dining experience, or I guess my fine photo experience. I named this image green for probably obvious reasons. Everything's very green here. But this is when I first started experimenting with slower shutter speeds. I started learning about all these tricks, and I think I had some photo magazines. I forget even what they were, because back then, there really was nobody on YouTube teaching photo. I think there was maybe Frono's Photo was around about this time, and a couple others that I would watch. But most of the information I got was from magazines or books or photo school. But when I first took this image, I just thought this was the greatest thing ever. And looking at it now, it's like, wow. I'm glad at one time I thought so highly of myself that I would use this as a centerpiece to my portfolio. And it's not saying that it's the worst image in the world. I think there's places this could work, but I've got some kind of weird, like, cinematic crop going on here. Just understand that over time you'll get better, and the things that you think are good now, you might not think are good in a couple of years, especially 10 years down the road. Now, moving on, I wanted this to be like a transition image. So this image is around the same time frame as the others. I believe this was again shot in 2009. But this is about a month being into photo school and learning some of the basic fundamentals of your camera, composition and lighting and exposure. So this was one of the first attempts that I took at doing completely manual exposure and trying something new. So I think I did a great job here. You've got the nice shadow area. You've got the beautiful mountains in the background, this wonderful kind of bubblegum sunset going on. So this is a shot that I honestly would still use this today. I would like to go back and recreate some more. And honestly, there's times that I go out now and try to recreate shots like this, and I can't do it because I'm overthinking. At this point in time, my goal was to photograph the pretty the sunset, and that was it. And I did very well at that. But now I'll be too greedy, and I want all these extra details and stuff. So sometimes simple is better. Now, this image, this was 2 years after getting really started in photo, and this is about 2 years into being in photo school. This was actually a 2-week trip that my photo class took to the Outer Banks in North Carolina. And obviously, at this point, I'm working with tripods. I'm working with slow shutter speed again. It's the perfect time of the evening to capture this wonderful sunset. Now, there are a couple issues. You could see there are some spots in my image, but I mean, that's something I can easily fix in Lightroom. But I think from this image to one of my first attempts at doing a slower shutter speed was phenomenal. The lighting wasn't that great. Whereas here, we're in that golden hour feel. Well, post-golden hour, I suppose. But these two images are kind of showing that transition that, oh, wow, I think I finally realized what's going on. So moving on to 2020, this is kind of where my work sits today. Now, I'm still kind of in this realm. I'm always working to improve. But I think this image shows a great deal of my learnings over the years. So now I'm thinking about my framing, I'm thinking about my composition, I'm thinking about where my subject matter needs to be within the image. So if we go with like more of a rule of thirds kind of thing, you've got this path on the third side over here, and then you've got kind of this fence on this third over here. But there's so many other elements to this image that make it good. We have leading lines going in. We have all these different layers from the close-up foreground to the midground to the background. We have these trees kind of enclosing this area, kind of pulling us in. I feel like I'm definitely improving a lot. Now this image, this is kind of me trying to make an attempt at a more natural landscape. So this one, obviously I've done some color changes and tonal pieces here. I didn't really add any haze or anything because we had natural fog. But here, I didn't really want to alter too much. I wanted to try to take the landscape in a way that was as natural as possible, just really focus on that beautiful morning light and capture something. So you could argue that I could get rid of these trees over here, but I think it adds a little depth to the image. Now, this photo comes from 2021. This was sort of an accidental photo. It wasn't something I planned to do. My wife and I were on our honeymoon, and we were driving through Georgia, which neither one of us had really ever been to before. And as we're driving on these back roads, we come across this pull-off spot and see this beautiful lake. So I hopped out, we snapped some photos and continued on our way. But I really like this image. So it was handheld because I didn't have my tripod with me on this trip. So I didn't really get to do any kind of slow-mo or anything like that. But I think what makes this image work well is we have this beautiful balance and kind of this juxtaposition almost. So you have this wonderful blue sky up here with the white clouds, but you also have somewhat of a reflection of that here in the water. So you have the same kind of blue in the water. You can see the reflections of the clouds coming across as well. So it's almost just like there's a big mirror here in a way. So to take some time to really look back at your photos, I mean, really just take a look at where you came from to where you are now. I think it's going to greatly improve your photography, because you're going to be able to see that you actually are improving, you're learning things, and you could be excited about it. I think that we all spend so much time trying to compare ourselves to other people out there that are creating these beautiful works that we lose sight of how much progress that we are actually making. And that's a huge problem, because when you lose sight of the progress that you're actually making and you can't feel excited about your work anymore, that's when your work starts to suffer. You just lose interest, you get burned out, you feel bad about yourself. So I urge you to go back and look at some of your old photos. See if you can get some of that spark of creativity back, and just go out and start shooting. Photograph everything. But let me know in the comment section below about how often you go back and check your photos, or if you do at all. And if today's video did inspire any creativity whatsoever, then I highly encourage you to create something new today.